Dai, quello di YouTube. Dove manda a Gabriele. Dice rimanda, ma non so che...
Massimo, buonasera, si sente l'audio?
Ecco Roberta.
Ciao Massimo, si sente?
Ciao Roberta.
Si sente?
Sì.
Ok, perfetto, volevo fare solo una prova di audio.
Io.
Okay.
È anche un po' forte, però. Tu mi vedi?
Io no. No, vedo
Senti?
solo
Sì.
Università di Almeria. Adesso ti vedo e mi vedo anche enorme. Aiuto.
Sono enorme, sono ingrassato perché qua si mangia bene.
No, io mi vedo enorme alle tue spalle. Sono inquietante alle tue spalle. Buonasera a tutti.
Inquietante è il sole, Roberta. Quello... No, non si vede più.
No, non c'è più il sole, anzi qui è buio a Benevento, sono a Benevento.
Ce l'hai con... Sì. Io mi sono questo l'ho detto prima. Ma in playback. Questo l'ha detto prima.
Io avviso De Blasio che siamo su Zoom, ok? Mi sta scrivendo. Ok, sarà qui alle sue 10:45, quindi perfetto.
Guarda. Vuoi dire a Maria cos'è che si sente l'eco? Stiamo sentendo le parole di un minuto fa.
Sarà qui alle 15:45, quindi perfetto.
Lo so, questo è come DAZN.
Voglio provare.
Mica possiamo parlare così, cioè che YouTube si sovrappone.
Maletto, mute when you are not talking for the echo, and when you want to talk, press.
Okay. Now we are listening to some minutes ago.
No, no.
No.
You have to press.
Okay.
But this is what.
Roberta, mi senti?
Io sento benissimo.
Bene.
Okay.
And this noise
She said
comes from YouTube?
from her. He said we can only mute here, but and the other.
Mi senti?
Io sento benissimo.
Better.
There is
No,
a delay
2
of
minutes
1
ago. 2 minutes ago.
Ritardo.
Ritardo, sì. YouTube?
YouTube.
YouTube.
Senza prendere la parte di sotto. O no? No, vabbè.
Ciao Francesco.
Buonasera.
Francesco, mi senti?
Mi sentite voi?
Sì, un po' debole, ma ti sentiamo. Roberta, vuoi parlare tu?
Eccomi.
Bene. Quello so io.
No, Massimo, anzi ti trovo benissimo, la Spagna ti fa bene.
Sì, guarda, addirittura meglio che a Benevento, figura.
La Spagna gli fa proprio bene.
Io sono proprio a Benevento oggi, proprio in
I think
Italia.
that we should start by speaking English. Now we are waiting just for Bill De Blasio,
Okay.
You know that Bill de Blasio has been the former mayor of New York. He's a personality well known all over the world. And I hope that the connection with New York works. Because now we, by 1 minute, I think that Bill will be there. Roberta, what do you think that we may ask another time to Bill if he wants to organize the Dyses next time in New York? We hope so.
I hope so. Yeah, of course. We hope so. I think just in a minute he will be here with us.
You are in touch now with Bill?
Yes, I'm in touch on WhatsApp. Yes. He wrote just 5 minutes ago. So
He answered it. He answered 5 minutes ago to your question.
5 minutes ago. Yeah.
Well, we have the measure.
Hoping everything works.
Hmm?
Connect. Hoping everything works.
Yeah.
Connect.
Oh, yes. I remember that we have Francesca Roberta. There is also Maria Coseto Resillas that represents the Universidad de Almería. Of course, you know, Roberta Mongillo and Francesco Saverio Coppola.
Nice to meet you.
We have just
Nice to meet you.
2 minutes, 2-3 minutes per person, because we give the word to Bill, just to thank Bill for to be available for this meeting, and of course I think that. I don't know, Francesco, you will say something about the importance of the work of Bill also for the Italy. Francesco is the general secretary of Guido D'Urso Association, and that was people that have done a great job for Italy, for South Italy. And 1 year ago, Riccardo Muti was awarded. Is right, Francesco?
Yes.
And this year, Bill de Blasio has gained the award in Naples. That was given by Francesco and by Gaetano Manfredi, is a well-known scientist and now mayor of Naples. We have some people that have been awarded with the doors, but I don't see that now. What do you think, Roberta?
Allora, he's writing in this moment. Okay. Probably is connected.
Yeah, the first one, then I just greetings, and you,
Yeah, 1 minute.
you're welcome. Yes, where's you want? One, two.
You are, we say maestro de ceremonia. Introduce, but then you are il maestro de ceremonias.
Ah, cioè vuoi sapere come si dice a Napoli? Onaste festa.
Ah.
Cosa? Oh, that's it.
Oh.
So people that
And we turn on.
Oh.
I'm asking if the link works because I've sent it. Okay.
Roberta, now it's 12, it's noon in New York.
Now it's no. A quarter to 11.
A quarter to 11.
11, 6 hours. Just few minutes. Okay, he's writing now on WhatsApp. He is in Zoom. He needs to be admitted.
Hi, Bill. Is everything okay? You may listen to us. Bill, have you a nice connection? You think that there is some problem, Roberta?
Yeah, he is saying he hasn't audio. There's some problems probably with the audio. Okay.
Non sente. I think that it depends on the PC of Bill, Roberta.
I'm asking by WhatsApp, so no, he cannot hear and he cannot speak.
Cannot speak?
Is it a problem? I'm asking with
What can we do? I think it's in his computer, isn't it?
I
It's in
don't
his
know.
computer. No, the problem is
Now everything is working, but the microphone is disconnected, is closed.
This one. Ah, the one of the
Now we can. Now we can.
he can.
There, can you hear me okay?
Wow,
Oh,
fantastic.
okay.
There we go.
Now.
There we go.
Okay.
Is everything okay? You may listen
Yes.
to us.
Yes, sorry for the
Okay.
delay. I'm sorry for the technical
No.
difficulties. Good afternoon to everyone.
You too. You too. And then now we may start Maria Jose. Maria Jose is a colleague representative of the University of Almeria in Spain. Please, Maria Jose.
Sorry, we cannot hear.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Now.
I was saying good afternoon. We are very happy to host this event, this conference, Dyses 2023, and very happy to have this guest speaker, to have you, Bill de Blasio. Thank you very much. And on behalf of the Universidad de Almería and the Faculty of Economics, welcome to this online talk. Thank you. And now
Thank
Massimo Squillante is going to have some words.
Thank you, Maria Jose. I think that now I give the word to Francesco Saverio Coppola. Francesco Saverio Coppola is the General Secretary of Guido d'Urso Association. As I said, Bill de Blasio was awarded by the Guido d'Urso Society in the last month of July, directed by Francesco Coppola and the Mayor of Naples, Gaetano Manfredi. Please, Francesco.
Ciao Bill.
Ciao, Francesco.
We see in Naples in June.
Yes.
I am very happy to see now. The topic today is very difficult and dangerous because it is necessary a digital immune system of a citizen for protect the vote. Important in this context is the reputation of a politician, digital reputation of a politician. But as built and as controlled, because these the citizen is necessary, aware and informed for aware vote. But is a question. The digital system, artificial intelligence, is truly democratic. This is a problem. We now discuss this topic, but it is necessary a correct information for citizens. Otherwise, we see the big brother of Orwell.
Yes, exactly.
This is my, I think that is interesting, but with, come diciamo noi, we see in Italian, language prudenza, prudenza in this system. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Grazie mille.
Thank you very much, Francesco. And now, Roberta Mongillo is a professor of law at the University of Sannio. She's a good friend of mine, and she's from Sant'Agata dei Goti. And you know that the roots of Bill de Blasio are in Sant'Agata dei Goti. Please, Roberta.
Thank you, Massimo. Good evening. I'm honored to participate, and I thank Massimo Squillante, my good friend, and all the members of the scientific committee. I am a private law professor, and my research is focused on the impact of artificial intelligence in the context of intellectual property, with particular reference to intellectual works and industrial inventions. In fact, I did the research also in New York City at Brooklyn Law School in last years, where I met Bill, obviously. And as all you know, artificial intelligence is rapidly gaining ground in many areas, and its contribution to progress is fundamental. That's why it is necessary to consider the actual and the potential risks, given that artificial intelligence is constantly evolving, as demonstrated by the last AI generative models such as ChatGPT. Just for one of the others. In April 2021, the European Commission has proposed the first regulatory framework for artificial intelligence that is called the Artificial Intelligence Act. I think it is very important and is expected to pass just at the end of 2023 of this year. As part of its digital strategy, the European Union wants to regulate artificial intelligence to ensure better conditions for the development and the use of this innovative technology. To ensure protection to users, artificial intelligence systems are analyzed and classified according to the risk they pose, in the sense that different risk levels will mean more or less regulation. More risks require more regulation. And the European Union Parliament's priority is to make sure that artificial intelligence systems are safe, transparent, traceable, non-discriminatory, and environment friendly. To this end, Parliament wants to establish a technology-neutral, uniform definition that could be applied not just today, but also in the future, for artificial intelligence system of the future. But this is one of the most complex points. In particular, on the 14th of June 2023, so the last June, when Bill de Blasio was in Italy, the European Parliament adopted amendments to the proposal for Artificial Intelligence Act during the ordinary legislative procedure, and I want to put in evidence just one amendment, the Amendment 4, according to which the new Article 1, letter A of the draft provides, these are the exactly words, this regulation should preserve the values of the Union, facilitating the distribution of artificial intelligence benefits across society, protecting individuals, companies, democracy, and the rule of law and the environment from risks, while boosting innovation and employment and make the Union a leader in the field. So with its capacity to improve decision-making and efficiency, artificial intelligence reveals an enormous potential to help governments. But it's important to ensure that the new digital services will be human-centered, transparent, ethical, and accountable. The imminent Artificial Intelligence Act will play a fundamental role to ensure that people and businesses can enjoy the benefits of artificial intelligence while feeling safe and protected. In particular, the European Commission says the way we approach artificial intelligence today will define the world we will live in the future. So it is truly a great honor today to listen to the opinion of the former mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio, who will enrich us in light of his important experience, singular experience, and his far-sighted vision for the future of democracy in the age of artificial intelligence. If it is true that progress cannot be stopped, it is equally true that it cannot find us unprepared, and that it is important to understand the phenomena in order to be able to regulate them appropriately. Special thanks to Bill de Blasio for his precious participation, and thanks to you all.
Thank you very much to Roberta, and was not just a formal welcome, and you presented the point of view of a lawyer as you are, and introduced some of the key words of the topic that Bill de Blasio will speak about in the next. Then I don't subtract any time to Bill de Blasio. You are welcome here, and I give the floor to you.
Thank you so much, Massimo. Thank you, Roberta and Francesco, everyone who's a part of this gathering. Thank you. It's so important to be talking about these issues. And I'll speak quickly and from the heart about what I feel. First, I want to just put the camera out there that just to say welcome to New York City. I don't know if you can see much, but there's a typical street scene, Mulberry Street in Little Italy in New York City. So there's your touristic moment of the day. Look, I want to start by telling you a real thing, a real example, a real story from my time as mayor of New York City, a city of almost 9 million people, a place that's synonymous with progress and energy and action, and yet also a place that has been the foundation of so much of the progressive ideas and policy in the history of the United States. So one day, some of my staff came to me, and they were more of what I would call the technocrat group of my staff, who didn't necessarily think about the larger values, but thought about specifically how to get initiatives achieved. And they had an idea to allow self-driving vehicles, autonomous vehicles, in one of our industrial areas. It's called the Brooklyn Navy Yard. The Brooklyn Navy Yard has a very, very powerful history. It is synonymous with the American effort in World War II to support democratic nations of Europe to build ships and send them to the support of democracy. It was a place that is synonymous with sort of the old industrial might of the United States, at one point employing 75,000 people during World War II. So think of this for a moment. We're in a place that sort of epitomizes a very high employment economy, a place where people worked with their hands and were able to make a good living as part of something important. And the technocrats on my team said, this place is perfect for experimenting with self-driving vehicles. There's a lot of space. We'll use the vehicles to get workers to their different workplaces, and we'll be able to find out if these self-driving vehicles can operate in an urban setting. It'll be a good experiment. Well, what was so striking to me is, in a place synonymous with the value of working people and the power of an economy that creates employment for the many, the people on my team were suggesting a form of automation that unquestionably was going to put out of work many, many workers. There was no conception, and these were good people, these were good public servants, but they had no conception of thinking about the impact on human lives. They were enamored with the technology. They saw the positives. They saw the cost savings. They saw the efficiency. And I'm not saying those are bad things, but what was so fascinating is what they didn't see. They did not see this might be the beginning of the loss of jobs for many families. They did not ask the question of what would this mean in terms of safety. As we were experimenting, the people who were part of the experiment, the people who worked on this site, were the ones who could be, in theory, put in danger. There was not a discussion of whether the people who would be affected would have any opportunity to say what they thought. And I think this little example actually is a good metaphor, a microcosm, however you want to think about it, for what we're facing with artificial intelligence and automation more broadly. Because right now, the advent of artificial intelligence, the development of artificial intelligence is happening, just like this little example in the Brooklyn Navy Yard with the autonomous vehicles. The larger trajectory, the larger development of artificial intelligence is happening with no plan in general, but particularly no plan for what will happen to working people and how they will be affected. There's no plan for safety in terms of what artificial intelligence will unleash in the world, and there's no democracy. We are not being asked what we think. We are not being asked to vote on how this should be developed. It's not being developed with a public framework, a public good framework. It's being developed by a small group of technologists who have no accountability to anyone, who argue that their technology could do good, but many of whom even acknowledge the dangers. And no one can say for a moment that this is progressing with some kind of organized plan. So what I constantly confronted in dealing with the technology community is a kind of blind faith, a sense that their technology in and of itself, because it's so fascinating to them, because it's so new and different, will somehow inherently be better, without asking the question, do we actually need this? What are the problems it will create? Will the problems greater or lesser than the good it will create? And also, why, unlike so many other things, should this development occur without any kind of democratic process? Why, if the very people who are creating it acknowledge its problems, is there not some effort at checks and balances? I don't know anyone who could say that they feel they have been consulted by the big tech companies on what they think should happen. I don't know anyone who would tell me that the government has come to us and asked us what we feel and what we need. The reality is a small group of people are developing this technology. They're in fact speeding the development by putting a lot of the information out and creating an open source dynamic that, in a funny way, even though it's open source, further evades the possibilities of a democratic process or a public debate, because it allows for the technology to keep developing and among small elites without the people being involved. For so many of us in cities around the world who are expected to be the engines of our society, the economic and cultural and intellectual focal points of our society, we are not being consulted. Cities are not being consulted on what it will mean for us. And it makes clear to me that we're in a situation probably without precedent, where we have to create our own democratic process to address this issue. I can't think of another situation where something proceeded without some real attempt to delineate the risks as well as the benefits in a systematic way. I can think of many, many examples of societal change and policies that accompanied that change, but typically the policies moved in some kind of concert with the change around it. There was some kind of rational debate about what was good and bad in the equation, as opposed to making changes on a vast scale and then talking about later what it would mean. And that is where I think we find ourselves. Let's just talk for a moment about the reality of working people. You know, one industry in America alone, in the trucking industry, you know, the transportation that moves the goods we all need, over a country, a vast country, 30,000 miles wide, 330 million citizens. We have about 3.5 million truck drivers in the United States for all the different kinds of truck transportation that occurs in this country. 3.5 million people. This is a group of people particularly vulnerable in this moment because of AI and automation more broadly. What happens when 3.5 million people come to feel that their jobs may be in danger? Now, will every job be lost instantly? No, I'm not saying that at all. But I can say very soon, if things continue apace, a huge number of those jobs will be lost. Over the next even 5 or 10 years, we could see substantial job loss. And what happens when people feel their way of life is threatened? What happens when there's evidence that decisions are being made without them that could have a huge impact on their lives? If you are someone who worries about a certain kind of populism, in particular a nationalist, anti-democratic right-wing populism, as we've seen in parts of Europe, as we've seen in the United States with Donald Trump, if you worry about that kind of thing, you should ask yourself a question: why are we allowing an unfettered, unregulated type of technology that's going to deprive a huge number of working people their jobs to take place without any kind of public debate? Because that's exactly what creates that anger and frustration and sense of powerlessness that fuels the right-wing populism that so many people say, as believers in democracy, we want to inhibit. Well, if we want to inhibit it, why are we allowing technologies to be implemented without any restraint that in fact are going to decay elements of our democracy because of the impact they have on people's lives and livelihood? There is no safety net here. We're seeing the creation of something that has potentially huge negative and dangerous effects with no discussion of how to truly compensate for it. The fact is, a small group of multinational corporations is leading this effort, and they would like to avoid too much democracy, too much debate, too much transparency. They would like, as we say in the United States, they would like business as usual. Well, a little small vignette kind of brought this home for me, just a small symbolism. That I was in Washington, D.C., and I had a meeting with an expert on artificial intelligence. And we were talking about how shocking it was that it was moving so quickly without a truly organized national debate, without any effort at real legislation. Obviously, the European Union is far ahead of the United States in this level. And as I came out of this meeting, I was very sad after this meeting. It was really driving home to me the challenge we faced. And just a few seconds later, a woman walked by wearing a t-shirt, and the t-shirt had a simple slogan on it. It said, "Nothing about us without us." Very, very simple concept. Nothing about us without us. And it dawned on me at that moment that this is the ultimate example of decisions being made without the people affected having any meaningful role, and being, guinea pigs in a vast experiment, as it were. Now, I mentioned before that I think we have to create an alternative answer, certainly in the context of the United States, but I imagine it's true in other places as well. Because to the extent our national governments have not responded to this challenge or fostered the kind of debate over what are the options, we on a more local level have to come up with our own solutions. And I'm not saying we can entirely alter the course of technology. I'm not saying that at all. I am saying that localities, cities, regions, provinces, states, however you want to think about it, depending on where you are in the world, have the power to set some ground rules as to what will happen to their own residents and citizens. They have the power to participate more or participate less or not participate in so much of the work required to develop artificial intelligence. And I think this is a case where it's very valuable for localities to do everything we can to slow down this process and try and reduce the negative impact of rampant technological change while increasing the transparency and the democratic process. There may be people listening to me now who say, artificial intelligence is going to come with a lot of benefits. I can envision some of those benefits. I think of the area of healthcare, for example. I'm very hopeful that artificial intelligence will improve the quality of healthcare, the efficiency. I'm not someone who says there's nothing good to be had in it. I am saying that the negatives and the positives are not being considered in a coherent fashion. There's a critic, a technologist and a critic of AI, Eliezer Yudkowsky, who put together a very simple and very troubling document. It's called AGI Ruin, a list of lethalities. It's not fun to read, but it's very important to see because he systematically tries to delineate all of the different iterations of challenge that unfettered, unregulated AI creates. Whether it is the very troubling realities, and Roberta referred to this, the pure level of inaccuracy and misrepresentation that can happen, the deep fakes, and obviously the destruction of any idea we have of intellectual property and protection of intellectual property. That's bad. That's only the beginning. The inherent racism and sexism that is baked into the inputs that build up the knowledge base for AI. That's not even questionable that those bad inputs are going to lead to bad outcomes. And we've seen discriminatory realities in AI already. We have every reason to worry about the impact on the education process just already with ChatGPT, which is so new. Certainly in the American context, in the educational system, we're seeing some very good applications. We're also seeing a huge amount of plagiarism. Those are all real problems. Those are the small problems. The massive displacement of working people on a scale we've literally never seen before. People like to make an analogy to the Industrial Revolution and people leaving the farms and their way of life being changed and having to move to the cities. Well, they moved to the cities where there were plenty of jobs. This is different. This is extremely fast, not like the Industrial Revolution, which played out over 100 years or more. This is going to play out over a decade or two. And we're going to see massive, massive job loss globally without an alternative in place. And then you have to worry about the even more dire realities, the possibility of a system malfunctioning, not following the inputs or achieving the outcomes that the technologists thought. We know that is a given with anything humanly created, so that a very, very powerful capacity simply doesn't follow through the way it's expected to. That's the danger. The danger of this technology falling into the wrong hands in the wrong ways as it's developed and being turned back against societal institutions. If we think right now that cybersecurity is an issue, cybersecurity challenges are going to grow as AI development grows and as the results of it are made more available. But think about the wrong kind of actors having some of the power that AI will provide to them at their disposal and what they could do with that. And then, worst of all, what is talked about openly by the very technologists who have been creating AI, the quote unquote, the singularity. The idea that AI at one point becomes self-aware and self-acting in ways that may not be helpful to humans. This is not, I'm not giving you the rant of a conspiracy theorist. I'm literally summarizing from what people in the field and people who have developed AI worry about themselves. And yet they continue to relentlessly develop AI without any true critical thinking or true checks and balances. If I were to say to you, there's anything else in the world where it could bring us benefits, but it also could lead to a horrendous disruption and actually be potentially an existential threat. Would you feel lightly about that? Would you want that to happen without any effort at regulation or limitation? I don't think so. Would you want it open sourced? Would you want information of that magnitude made available broadly to all actors? No. It's very hard to find a parallel, but one maybe is nuclear weapons. And I think it's so valuable to look at in the development of nuclear weapons. it would have been the last thought to open source the information as the development was occurring. And we know that as nuclear weapons were being created, their creators, to some extent like the technologists of today with AI, but even more sharply, their creators feared what they had created instantly and immediately moved to put limitations on it. And I think it's very, very interesting, that parallel. I don't know how many of you have seen the movie that came out recently, Oppenheimer, but it is a wonderful representation of the challenges, the conflicts that all the scientists involved went through and what they felt. But unquestionably, what comes through in this representation, it's only one historical representation, but what comes through so clearly is they worried constantly. And they applied themselves to try to figure out how to make sure that what they had created would not be used again. And in fact, since 1945, thank God, and I'm knocking on wood, but that's been the case. But that didn't happen accidentally. That happened because there was a conscientious effort to create limitation. And there was an acknowledgement that even though nation states are far from perfect, it was much more appropriate for control to be held in the hands of democratically elected governments than in the hands of private interests. So today with AI, the real control, the real power is private interests. It's not the government, certainly not in the case of the United States. Now, I'll be quick in wrapping up here. And if we have time for a little bit of dialogue, that'd be great. What I think is the thing to worry about here, in addition to all the substantive issues I've laid out, I think there is a sort of a psychological factor that has to be overcome. Right now, there's a sense of inevitability with the development of artificial intelligence. There's a sense that the technology is going to happen whether we like it or not, beyond our reach, beyond our understanding, too complex for everyday people. And that has a certain anesthetizing quality, that there's a drug of inevitability in effect that has taken away some of the democratic energy and fervor we need to address it. The reality is we need to confront this situation. We need to start by understanding that this is not inevitable. We need to start by understanding that there is a way to create a democratic impulse here. We have seen it over and over again, that once the public is activated and sees a threat, they speak to it. And we've seen it all over the world in many historical circumstances. Right here in the United States, recently, and people can have different views, I'll just speak from my own worldview, but we had a profound threat to our democracy with the reality of Trumpism. And as people understood that threat, they responded in 3 elections since, in 2018, 2020, 2022. We've seen a very, very powerful public response. And I think there are many, many other examples, but I use that one because it's so recent, but also because it is so rapid. It did not take long. Once people understood the danger in front of them, once it was framed as a threat to their values and their lives, the response was very intense and very quick. In fact, in the 2020 election, we saw some of the highest levels of voting in the history of the United States. So what I would say is we need to overcome that fear, that sense of inevitability. We have to have a deep desire to create limitation through the actions of local governments. We need to have the development of a social movement to address all the challenges of AI, the invasion of privacy, the discrimination, the huge potential existential dangers. We need to develop social movements that respond to them, just like they respond to climate or economic inequality or the denial of human rights or civil rights. We also need to speed the efforts at the larger level. The European Union, as Roberta talked about powerfully, the European Union legislation is extraordinarily important. It points out that there are many ways to create appropriate limitations, because AI, despite its complexity, can be balanced by a variety of legal restrictions. and by the ability to create consequence. One of the great elements of the European Union legislation is that it requires companies to comply with a certain level of transparency. And if they don't, there are fines that range up to the billions of dollars. And that's the kind of way to create actual accountability. I will note another classic problem that anyone who cares about this issue will confront. We hear it in the United States all the time. Well, yes, there are many dangers to AI, but we have to develop it more rapidly than China does. And this is another one of those false choices. Using the threat, the quote unquote threat to national security as a reason to unleash a technology that actually could be a much bigger threat than anything China would ever do. That is a classic mindset America falls into. I think it's happened in other parts of the world at different times as well. But we've got to be able to say about this discussion that AI itself is the challenge, that trying to compete to be the best at creating something destructive is not sensible, and that we have to create our own sense of what accountability looks like, what an actual democratic discourse looks like, what actual safety and protection looks like, what actual guarantees for working people in terms of their incomes look like. We have to create that. And we have to recognize that the political dynamics are there. The reality that so many people around the world right now are not trusting of big corporations, are not convinced that technology is their inherent friend. It's actually a very good moment in history to try and build the social movements and build the democratization and build the local action that allows us to get some balance back in this equation and protect ourselves for the future. I conclude with a simple point that everyone here, everyone participating should see themselves as actors in this drama. That not only is it not inevitable, the course that AI will take, but that the minute people start to feel they have some right to self-determination, it will change the very discussion. I bring you back to that beautiful phrase, nothing about us without us. We have to feel that this is our choice to make. And if we act that way politically, if we speak up that way, if we mobilize others that way, we will change the trajectory of this issue for the better, and we will protect ourselves and future generations. Thank you very much. I don't know why I can't hear the applause, but I see the applause at least.
Thank you very much, Bill, for your lecture. And during our conference, many of us have discussed about the complexity of the decision procedures in our age, where, as you said, there is a lot of technology and the problems posed by artificial intelligence. And Bill de Blasio faced with the complexity by means of his great political experience, and by facing with these problems by means of his political thinking. I think that there is a lot of questions that arise from your lecture. I think that Roberta has something to add or to ask to Bill about these questions. Maybe that there are some reflections that we may do about the difference between in the situation between USA and in the Europe, and from several points of view. Anyway, please, Roberta.
Just an idea about regulation, because probably today, thanks to Bill de Blasio, the need of a regulation is more clear. But there are also many actors who don't want to regulate, who avoid the regulation of artificial intelligence for several reasons we can imagine. And the idea is the European Union is preparing the Artificial Intelligence Act, which will be very, very important because probably it will be the first regulatory framework in the world. For all the European Union, it is a regulation, so to be applied in all the European Union countries is very, very important. But the idea is, as artificial intelligence regards all the world, not just Europe or just United States, probably there would be a better organization of different legislations, of different governments of all the world to fix at least the most important points, to fix at least the points about, for example, human rights that need to be protected and need to be protected not just at European level or at American level, United States level, but probably in a perspective, in a bigger perspective. What do you think about this? I don't know if it's clear, if I've been clear. Sorry, the audio.
Bill, please, the audio, the phone, your phone.
Massimo.
There we go. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Oh, you
we
have
can
to.
hear.
You can hear. Okay, sorry about that. I think, look, I think the point about thinking from a prism of human rights, it's not that different from thinking of the prism of privacy or thinking from the prism of job loss. I think they all come to the same place that the minute you talk about a technology that does not have a democratic element, it implicates, it compromises across a whole broad range of subjects. I think the thing we need to catch up with here is we don't have a previous model for government being essentially segregated from change. And I'm not saying government is so perfect. I have a huge critique of what has happened by many governments over the years, but the difference here is there is no structure, there is no order. There's a small group of private actors who are developing a reality that is beyond any of the norms we know in terms of democratic process. I heard from one of my colleagues when I was at Harvard last year, who a Chinese national, now American citizen, who studied the surveillance state, that is the People's Republic of China, and their use of AI to, in fact, magnify their ability to commit human rights violations. Their use of AI is crucial to their subjugation of the Uyghur population, for example. So I think we have to understand that this tool has been created in a way that is so reckless that it can fall in the hands of any actor for any outcome, including bad state actors for the denial of human rights. And this is all the more reason why we have to create a different kind of paradigm. But that paradigm is not going to come from the top down. It has to come from some kind of public demand and social movement.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. There is someone in the public that want to pose a question to Bill de Blasio. If you want. Maybe that, Francesco, you want to add something?
Wait, is there someone who wants to ask a question? I want to make sure they get their chance.
A question. It is possible to regulate artificial intelligence. It is very difficult. Regulate data sources for artificial intelligence. Digital system actually is non-democratic. is a very difficult. Artificial intelligence, it is possible to use for fraud. This is very dangerous for citizens. The digital system is now in a system, a capitalistic system. This is very difficult for.
No, I understand. Let me.
Freedom of information.
Yeah, I agree. It's very difficult, and I think one of the ironies is that the technological leadership and the big tech companies argue with what we say in English with a straight face. They argue disingenuously, dishonestly, that because it's so complex, leave it to them to figure out. That to me is one of the most dangerous constructs I've ever heard. We have faced, I use the example of nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons are quite complex. Nuclear power is quite complex, but in weapons with a national security framework, but nuclear power was actually a question of civilian democratic decision-making. And over time, profound decisions were made about limiting it in many parts of the world. We cannot fall into this trap of saying this is the first technology that's ever been complex. Yes, I agree it moves fast. I agree it's ever changing. That does not mean we should not apply the basic standards of human history, that there must be some kind of democratic decision-making, or at least some kind of governance structure, even in non-democratic societies. And to me, it is a lie. It's a smokescreen when we're told the reason we should not pay attention is complexity. I think many, many people can grasp the basics that they need to think about artificial intelligence. I think you can create governing bodies of experts to aid that process. But I think the European Union legislation is a great example. It speaks powerfully to this complex reality. The European Union did not feel defeated and they couldn't come up with a framework. So yes, complex, but absolutely we still have to apply the same rules we always have. And I know we only have a little bit of time, so I think, Massimo, you said one of the members of the audience wanted to ask something. Massimo, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry, please. What do you ask?
I said, I think you had an audience question. We're going to run out of time shortly.
Yes.
I think you had to.
Ask him. No, I think that there is a question. Please. Let's hear. Wait, just wait a minute.
Yes, I can see the way in the back.
José, here. Maria José, here. Please, here. Yes. Sorry, just a minute.
It's all right.
And, yeah.
Go ahead. What's the question?
Well,
Doesn't work. The other one.
Okay.
Huh?
All right. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk and to everyone. Well, what I was thinking is that I'm hearing a lot of somehow criticism towards artificial intelligences. And is it that bad, really? I mean, like 100 years ago, with the development of the car industry, a big change came. And could we be in a similar situation, meaning that, well, of course, the car industry involves changes in jobs, in the way people lived. Are we in a similar situation within this regard? And also about regulation. Right, it's true that these machines, in fact, are so far controlled by big tech companies. But A, shouldn't we trust people in their use? And B, our governments, in particular the US government, taking any actions to not regulate, but maybe invest in such companies like it happened with the car industry, with Ford, Chevrolet, all that. All these companies, in terms of crisis, for example, they received plenty of subventions, plenty of aid from governments. So maybe that would be the direction to at least get some grasp or some power in between these so far private initiatives. Thank you.
So, no, they're very good questions. Look, no, I don't think right now the model has been to invest to develop like a role or a leadership via investment. And I think we're probably past that point in many ways. I think the United States has to move to a regulatory framework. We're not close enough now. It will take us quite a while. But I do appreciate if someone says, well, history inherently is made up of technological change. I mean, when humanity harnessed, fire, that was technology, and that was a fundamental change, or the creation of the wheel, or any other, radio, television, you name it.
Right.
But the difference here is the potential for extremely fast change. Even the automobile, of course, it had a huge impact on society, but over a prolonged period of time. And unlike this situation, did not inherently create a dynamic where there would be massive job loss. The whole concept of AI is to make workers less necessary. And that was not true. The auto industry was obviously, all elements of the auto industry and everything involving owning a car and servicing a car created a huge number of jobs. So I think we should be clear that there's we're in uncharted territory. And the other thing we should be clear about is that unlike, no one would have ever said the development of the automobile could lead to a humanity-wide outcome. Whereas here with artificial intelligence, you're talking again about the worst ramifications of it, the ability for very, very large actions to happen either by accident or because the power of artificial intelligence is harnessed by negative actors. But even worse, of course, the real danger that at some point this becomes a system beyond human control. There's no parallel between that and, say, the development of the automobile. You're right to say, are there not good things? Of course there are good things in it. But I think we have to jolt ourselves into recognizing this is a kind of danger we've never experienced before. And not to shrink from that, but to engage.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you have a time, there is another question from.
Yes, let's do one more.
Please.
Let's do one more.
Yes.
Oh, thanks. Thanks to all. My name is Mario Angelelli. I'm a research fellow here at the University of Salento in Italy. First, I'd like to thank you and all the organizers for the occasion to talk about this fundamental topic. I have just a brief question regarding an aspect. I really appreciated the slogan, nothing about us without us. In this regard, I would like to ask you, do you think, together with a top-down approach, a normative regulation approach based on the update of current rules regarding artificial intelligence, also a bottom-up approach regarding the awareness of citizens regarding sharing their data, the usefulness and risks regarding open data, the interaction with cybersecurity, which is another topic which has emerged and can be of greatest concern in current society, could be as effective or complementary action together with regulations, should be implemented simultaneously. What is your opinion about this?
No, I think that's a great way of thinking about it. I commend you. And I do think the answer is not solely top down or bottom up. I think the aspiration should be that regulation and rules and guidelines are created at the highest level, like the European Union model. And the European Union model, I think, is fantastic, but I think it will need to be constantly improved and updated to keep up with the technology. But I think that should always be an aspiration. You do see the beginning of that in the United States, for example. But I think the complementary piece is there must be a people's movement. There must be a sense of demand at the local level. There has to be a sense of sort of, this is very personal. The impact is going to be very personal. Working people and labor unions should be demanding a plan in terms of what it will mean to either stop job loss or address job loss in a genuine way. People concerned about their privacy and protecting their democratic rights should be demanding accountability. There's so many different versions of this, but I think it comes back to the notion that there has to be a very local grassroots element of this change. First of all, that will put a lot of pressure on the larger government, the national government level. But second, I think there are many, many tools. There's a point at which people say, we're not going to participate in this. And that can be disruptive in a good way. These are still private, these are market equations in a free market. When the public starts saying, this actually is something we do not want to be a part of, or whatever piece of it we do not want to be a part of, that has a reverberation. That has a consequence. So I think when I say nothing about us without us, it is a reminder that right now we are getting too used to this happening without us, and we need to reverse that equation and say, no, in fact, we will not allow that. And that, by the way, whether it's in a university, whether it's in a local government, whether it is in a business, that every actor in society, every institution has an opportunity to say what their ground rules will be and to create that accountability.
I agree. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. Go ahead, Roberta, and then I have to sign off.
Thank you very much, Bill. I just want to add that your lecture was a gift for us, a gift for the Universidad de Almería and for the community of Dyses dynamic of socioeconomic systems. And I am convinced that if a meeting is good, then it is just a step for other meetings. Yes. That,
yes.
I have a proposal, and if you want, it should be an honor to record your lecture and to have a paper. Yes. Of your lecture, maybe that with Roberta and Francesco and myself, we may propose to publish your. You have the time, of course. I know. No, you have a lot of things to do.
No. I think I would appreciate that opportunity to get this message out, and you certainly have my full support and approval to publish everything I've said here today, and I'd be honored to be associated with all of you in that process. So you have my total blessing to do with this information how you see fit.
Okay, Bill. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you another time.
Thank you.
I see you, hope,
ciao,
in
Bill.
Italy,
Ciao, Bill.
And maybe in New York sometime.
Ci vediamo.
Ciao.
Sì, Sant'Agata, Napoli, Sant'Agata.
Ci vediamo. A Napoli, Bill.
Okay.
Ciao.
Okay.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao,
Thank you.
ciao.
Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias.
De nada.
Ciao.
Massimo, vi saluto anch'io. Chiudiamo il collegamento?
Ciao Roberta, grazie. Poi
grazie
tu terrai i contatti per Bill, se è possibile possiamo fare. C'è Francesco ancora?
Sì, c'è, lo vedo.
Ok. e possiamo raccogliere questo contributo, vediamo. Potrebbe essere la rivista che dirige Francesco, la politica meridionalista, potrebbe essere una rivista dell'area giuridica, come facemmo a
Sì,
Ruanda
si potrebbe
l'anno scorso.
trarre, scusate, si potrebbe trarre chiaramente una riflessione, perché poi anche le domande hanno in qualche maniera
Stimolato,
tracciato
certo.
dei percorsi possibili.
Massimo, se posso, io non ho interrotto Bill perché sapevo che aveva altri impegni. In particolare l'ultima domanda, the last question, era di un italiano se non sbaglio, no? Un collega del Salento.
Sì.
E volevo soltanto precisare, lo dico in italiano lentamente, magari tanto i colleghi spagnoli credo che comprendano bene l'italiano, o preferite in inglese?
Sì, è vero, Maria José. You understand Italian?
If they speak very slowly, ok.
Pequeño.
Volevo, no, 2 minutes, right minutes. Volevo soltanto precisare che questo regolamento europeo, che dovrebbe essere approvato entro fine anno, già prevede tutti questi profili, cioè non è che va a regolamentare l'intelligenza artificiale da un punto di vista, come dire, tecnico-scientifico, anzi quello è stato il primo problema, come definirla, ma va a regolamentare, ecco il collega molto lieta, volevo appunto dire che va a regolamentare tutti questi profili e la privacy, per esempio, è uno dei più considerati, perché il problema che ad esempio tramite intelligenza artificiale possono sapere, ecco, oggi ad Almeria voi che temperatura corporea avete, che tipi siete, se siete agitati, emozionati, stressati, e conservare questi dati e utilizzarli per scopi non necessariamente leciti, questa è una delle maggiori preoccupazioni. E devo dire che su questo punto noi italiani siamo stati anche piuttosto bravi, penso in particolare all'autorità garante della privacy italiana, che è stata una delle prime, non so se avete sentito la notizia, a fermare ChatGPT, è stata anche molto criticata, no? Ha stoppato ChatGPT e ha preteso il rispetto delle regole europee, in realtà erano regole europee. Quindi la povera autorità garante italiana non solo ha fatto il suo dovere, ma ha ricevuto anche una pioggia di critiche perché ha fatto applicare la normativa europea già esistente. Ovviamente quella che stanno per promulgare adesso prevederà più specificamente la protezione dei dati personali e di quant'altro quando c'è l'intervento dell'intelligenza artificiale. Un altro esempio. Voi pensate alla potenza dirompente che può avere una fake news fatta dall'intelligenza artificiale, costruita talmente bene, magari con immagini, no, tipo un attentato che non è mai esistito. L'intelligenza artificiale lo può creare e se non è evidente che quella è una notizia creata, quindi non è una vera notizia, ma è creata dall'intelligenza artificiale, può avere delle conseguenze spaventose. Quindi un altro degli obblighi che è previsto al momento in questo draft del regolamento è proprio quello che se un testo è scritto dall'intelligenza artificiale deve risultare scritto dall'intelligenza artificiale. Così noi siamo più attenti nella lettura e sappiamo che dobbiamo prestare attenzione a capire il fondamento, perché non c'è il giornalista che si assume la responsabilità della notizia, no? Là scattano poi tutta una serie di altre responsabilità, però la domanda era stata molto interessante dal punto di vista giuridico, quindi permettete
Roberta,
giusto
io non voglio stroncare il dibattito, come si dice, però
no, avete altri impegni ad Almeria?
No, abbiamo un altro impegno in un'altra parte della città.
Lo so, volevo ringraziare
Giacomo Di Tollo e David Carfi che faranno un bel concerto. Io manderò le foto e il resoconto di tutto ciò, anche naturalmente di Bill, però alla fine della conferenza, let me understand.
Ok, allora buona serata a voi lì ad Almeria.
Buona serata a voi.
Buona serata.
Ciao.
Buonasera, professore Coppola.
Ciao.
Buonasera. Buonasera a tutti e grazie. Grazie.
Buonasera.
Buonasera.